God, I know you worked in me. Everybody seen the community activist, the good guy in town side of Nixon, but if my life had to play on that screen right there, I don't know if I can sit here with you and watch it. God has worked on me through the good and through the bad, through the heartache and through the pain. I know a God that, in spite of our circumstances, in spite of what we go through, delivers every time. And first, giving honor to God for this time and moment in our lives, to my pastors in their absence, fellow clergy, officers, members, family, and friends. I thank God for making this day possible and just being able to wake up this morning and have another opportunity to serve and navigate this roller coaster ride, this hazard that we call life. Somebody didn't make it today. Somebody's life circumstances are in a critical state right now. Somebody is contemplating suicide. Somebody is facing surgery today. Somebody can't pay their rent. Somebody is dealing with a rocky relationship. And somebody is dealing with the stressful circumstances on their job. But despite it all, through our faith in God, we keep on praying and building our faith regardless of the circumstances. And so when you woke me up this morning, I just prayed for my daily bread. I'm not worried about tomorrow. I just want my daily bread. Lord, I'd ask this morning that you be in me, that you be through me, that you be for me, and that you use me as a vessel to deliver your word, to restore somebody's faith, and be a reconfirmer for others. Allow me to stay within the time frame that has been given for the month of August. The church is only supposed to go 70 minutes, and I don't know if we've done it yet. But Lord, do your will. We as a people of God understand the need for continued prayer, healing, reconciliation, coalition building, resource development, and an evaluation all across this country of urban areas where people are frustrated, underserved, and seeking solutions to their social and economic conditions. But more importantly than that, we seek an understanding of God's will, because this may not be the last time that we see this type of unrest in our communities. You can't turn a blind eye to the spike and the increase in violence and shootings and murders in our region. I was looking on social media, and social media has become just such a lethal weapon in our call for justice. I was watching a clip just here in Washington, D.C. of a woman with a knife, and the police had her surrounded, and they shot her. And there were people standing there just saying, "Sister, put the knife down." And I was waiting for the police to put the taser on her. But they shot her. God, we ask that you allow leaders to suppress their egos and work together for the good of the people. Because regardless of our circumstances, regardless of what part of the city we live in, we all have value in the eyes of God. Before I begin, I don't know if they can see us. I think they're in the village right now. And I think the reception may not be good enough, but I wanted to say hello to my wife if she's watching, and my daughter and all of our queens and princesses that are over in Africa right now. Our assistant pastor just joined them as they prepare for their crossover. Also had some friends in the audience that came this morning. Many of them, I see one young man, I don't know where he went, Colin, who played football for me when he was about 6, 7, 8 years old, and I think he's taller than me now. I haven't seen him in a number of years. All of my friends from the Mayor's Youth Leadership Institute, and I'm so proud of them. When Marion Barry passed away, but one of the things that happened is that when he was in Howard the first time, that they thought that he was going to pass, and he called myself and Kimberly Hughes to come to the hospital and see him, and I thought that at that point that would be the end, but he sat there and he said to me and Kimberly, please make sure that my program doesn't die. I'm leaving it up to you all to see to that. And after he passed, we got together and we held a memorial service in his honor, and we decided that we would come together and form a nonprofit alumni association. And the first thing we decided to do was to raise college scholarship money for young people in the program who were going to college, and we gave out over $3,500 on Friday evening, and you should have seen those young people's faces. And I'm so proud of all of them. I see one of my right-hand men over there, Bishop John Daniels, in the audience, and I thank that brother because when I was struggling with this calling, he was having a prayer breakfast at his church, and he said, brother, I want you to come and do a prayer. And I looked at the program, and all I saw was ministers was on the program, and I was just a deacon, and I was like, man, why did you could have got another minister to do that. But he understood. God told him that I need this brother. He has to make a decision. And he put me on that program, and I think when I walked out of that church that day, that began that process of me saying, God, I hear you, but I'm not ready yet. As we look at our scripture in the book of Exodus, God speaks to Moses and gives him instructions to go to Pharaoh with his brother Aaron with a plea to let the Israelites leave Egypt, to go into the wilderness so that they might worship God. God directs Moses to give Pharaoh an ultimatum. With each refusal from Pharaoh yielding an increasingly worse plague that was set forth by God. The 10th and final plague involves the death of the firstborn child of every Egyptian. Here were a group of people living in slavery. The Hebrews had to work long hours. They were hard at work building bricks for the Egyptians. They had to pull the straw, and they had to go out in the fields and get that and make bricks so that Pharaoh could build his kingdom. At one point, Pharaoh ruled that if a man did not meet his quota of bricks for that day, that his baby was to be put into buildings instead of bricks. This kind of persecution got worse. The king Pharaoh was afraid of a prophecy that foretold a deliverer for the Hebrew people. So Pharaoh ordered that all of the baby boys be thrown into the river from then on. Pharaoh had to be crazy if he thought those people would continue to live under the rule of slavery. Pharaoh had to be issued an ultimatum. Let my people go or else. We continue to watch as we hear stories about how law enforcement, those that are charged with upholding the law, with protecting and serving our people, but our people are being murdered and they're inflicting undue harm and pain on our brothers and sisters. July 2015 was the deadliest month of 2015 so far as the killings by police, after registering 118 fatalities. According to the Guardian newspaper, they're doing an ongoing investigation of police brutality and deaths of people that are in custody of the police. They project that U.S. law enforcement is on course to kill more than 1,150 people this year. The July figure brought to an end a steady decline in the totals over the previous 4 months. After 113 people were killed in March, 101 died in April. 87 fatalities were recorded in May, and then it went down to a low of 78 in June. And now it's back up to 115. At least 20 people were killed in July. More than 1 in 6 were unarmed, including Samuel DuBose, who was shot by a University of Cincinnati police officer, Ray Tensing, in a traffic stop. But that police officer clearly altered his report. This has become the latest flashpoint in protest over the police use of deadly force. And here we are 1 year later from Ferguson. But yet we are poised in 50 days. Millions will gather on the mall to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March. But more importantly, to demand from the powers to be justice or else. We understand the justice part of the equation. But what about the or else? You see, many of us would be comfortable with going down to the mall to march for justice. We've been doing that all our lives. Someone calls people together for a cause, and thousands or millions of people show up and make a statement or a demand. Never in our history have we issued an ultimatum or an else. So that you can describe this message in your mind, turn to your neighbor and say, the power of or else. Turn to your neighbor on the other side and tell them the power of or else. You've got to understand that justice is the cause, but or else is the mission. Or else is the ultimatum. In case you didn't know what an ultimatum is,